we've been your job search besties and helped you in some way, there's a cool way you can support the show. Shout us a virtual coffee.
We get a huge kick out of reading all of your success stories. Head to buymeacoffee.com/interviewboss and shout us a cuppa.
If you keep us caffeinated, we can keep the content coming.
I think that's the biggest tragedy in all the topics of this podcast, in the entire job search, is that something is impressive, but the story isn't, and nobody then knows. I think that's devastating.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Interview Boss. My name is Emma. I'm a radio journalist who's teamed up with my sister to give you advice, inspiration and support when you're looking for a new job. Sarah is a HR and recruitment professional, and together we're excited to give you all the tips, tricks and behind the scenes knowledge to help you in your career.
Hey Em, and welcome back everyone. We are always telling you to shoot your shot. So every episode, we're going to tell you about a listener who's done exactly that. This ep, we're shouting out Megan, who bought us 3 coffees. Thanks for supporting the show, Megan.
She said, if my story was an episode of your podcast, it would be called I Was Offered the Role of a Lifetime but Turned It Down. Like so many others, I was referred to your podcast by a friend after I went to her to seek advice on a job opportunity that was in an industry she'd worked in before. The job was my dream role, doing the role I've done for many years, but in an industry I have no experience in. Clue, there are only 18 of these organisations in Australia. Most of them are in Melbourne. The role would require me to move interstate, which I was open to, but it was such a far-flung possibility that I would even be interviewed, let alone be offered the job, that I put that in the cross that bridge when I come to it basket. I binged a ton of your episodes ahead of my interview via Teams, and your advice provided so many tangible tips and tricks that I left the call feeling like I'd smashed it. Turns out I did. They flew me to Melbourne for a second interview and to present my response to a task. Quick check on Spotify. Yep, Interview Boss has episodes about that too, and left the organisation feeling like I'd done my best. Maybe not well enough to get the job, but I was proud of my efforts. A week goes by and they let me know they need more time. I figure I didn't get the job and that's okay. I'd gotten so much out of the experience, including a huge confidence boost, and didn't have to contemplate the logistics of an interstate move. I was wrong. The following week, I was offered my dream job. I was absolutely floored and so proud of myself. After taking some time to consider, during which they offered me flexibility to work remotely during the transition interstate and agreed to an increased salary, I ultimately decided that it wasn't the right time to uproot my family for this opportunity. These coffees are to say thank you for your fabulous content. I really do believe your tips were highly effective in helping me secure this offer, and while I'm devastated to not be able to take up the role, I'm hopeful that something similar will eventuate for me in the future. Your episode on dream jobs was helpful here, helping me take it down off the pedestal. Perhaps I could request an episode on how to handle it when your career trajectory doesn't go as planned, how to accept the decisions you've made and trust you're where you need to be. Thanks for the great podcast legends, Megan.
Oh, that is incredible. I have a hunch on what kind of industry she might have been talking about. And Megan, if I'm right, that absolutely would have been a tough decision. It's not an industry that I personally would like to work in, just with the line of work that I do, but very, very cool. And a lot of people want to work in those kind of spaces. Did you work it out, Em?
Okay, well, you need to tell us.
I think it's in the sporting area.
Interesting. And when they pull out all of the stops, offer to let you work remote, bump up the pay, pulling out all the stops, it would be so hard to turn something like this down. But credit to you, Megan, for knowing that something didn't feel right, trusting your gut, that the timing wasn't there, and the fact that you got through to the end shows you can absolutely get through to the end again. So when the timing is right, the stars will align, you might take a job like this again.
Yep. It will. And look, applying for roles interstate or internationally or whatever it is are always challenging. And that's often why you'll get extra questions from the company of like, are you serious about this? Is this something you're actually going to do? Because it's tough on both sides. Like, it's a really big decision to help someone relocate or to relocate yourself and your family. But Megan, I'm sure you made the right choice for you.
Before we get into this episode, if you need more help than we can fit in a podcast, go check out our website for free templates, coaching services, and our interview academy. Sarah, tell us what this week's episode is about.
This one is a bit of a lighthearted episode for our listeners, and it's 6 things we think that you need to hear. Now, Em and I have come up with 3 each, just based on what we see are the common questions, maybe what we're feeling is the vibes at the moment, and it's going to be really interesting to see what we've each got and if they're exactly the same 3 things or if they're really, really different.
I hope we haven't doubled up.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, maybe if we have doubled up, then whoever goes second will have to come up with something else. So
all right,
who's
you
going to
go
go first?
Jinx. You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So my first thing that I think our listeners need to hear is that I am not psychic and I don't have magic powers.
Yes.
And I wish I did. I really wish I did. But we get lots of variations of this type of question. And I think people are hoping, maybe wishful thinking, that I'm going to be able to give them an answer on what's going on in their particular situation. So they spell out, okay, it was this many days ago and they asked this question in the interview and it's this kind of role, and then I had an email and then I haven't heard. And I wonder if on a subconscious level people kind of know that I'm not going to have the answer, but I do kind of sometimes get the sense that they're hoping that I'll say something like, 10 days did you say? Okay, and did they ask this question in the interview? It must be this.
Yeah, like you've got a magic book and you're flicking to the contents page, running your finger down to section 18 where they waited 4 days and that equals this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That must mean that the hiring manager is sick at the moment. So don't worry. No need to worry. Oh, unfortunately, that means, some other thing means that you didn't get the job. They didn't like you that much. I love the idea that I would have some kind of a way to translate, what's going on. Unfortunately, though, I really don't. And I can only really give reassurance, and I have the same information that you have when you share it with me. And unless I was working at that company, there's no way I can help you with that. Happy to give reassurance and point you in the right direction of episodes, but I don't have a magic book.
I want to unpack this a bit. I think possibly this is because we're big on, or you're big on, giving people the behind the scenes information. Like, this is what's going on when these kind of things might be happening. So we can't entirely blame them because we are giving them behind the scenes secrets, but those are obviously generalized kind of widespread problems or issues that would pop up across industries, across countries, across sectors. It's not niche and specific.
And they're just options. Like in those episodes where we say, okay, if you're the runner-up, here's what could be happening. Or if they're, adding another interview on that you didn't hear about, here's why they might be doing that. I've only got a list of here's some of the things that I've seen. There could be also things that I haven't seen that I don't even expect that could be going on as well. So all I'm often able to respond is well, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. But there's no way to tell. So just a fun, lighthearted one. I wish I had a crystal ball and I wish I had a magic book, but I don't.
So the second thing that I really think our listeners need to hear is that you don't know who else has applied and how great they are. So hear me out. So a couple of years ago, I applied for a job. It was a media advisor job, and I felt like it was the most perfect job for me. It was so aligned. Everything they were describing was just me. It even said in desirable criteria, newsroom experience, because obviously going for a media advisor job, it is a bit of a pivot. It's in the same realm, but it's kind of considered a bit of a career transition. So that can be tough. But the fact that this particular media advisor job was looking for someone with newsroom experience, I was like, I've got it in the bag. I was so sure that I was going to get an interview. I knew I would get an interview. And then I was like, if I just do myself justice, it should all be fine. I was so convinced. Anyway.
This job is basically mine. Like you're thinking about when you like handing in your notice, you're thinking about how cool, like where's their office?
Yes, where am I going to park? I was so in deep. Anyway, I got an automated you haven't been successful, thanks for applying. And I was flabbergasted that I didn't get an interview.
How good is the word flabbergasted? We need to bring that back. I want to hear flabbergasted more often.
I wouldn't have minded if I got the interview and then I didn't get the job. That's very different. I didn't have confidence that I would get offered the job. I had confidence that I could get an interview and really do myself justice and have a good chance. So I missed out and I was totally perplexed. I was like, this is just what corrupt stuff must be going on there that they've overlooked me. Seriously.
And that's where it can sink in that if you didn't, do this podcast, you might be like, well, they haven't obviously even seen my application, because if they had, how could they not give me an interview?
Yeah.
That's where that creeps in.
So then, because of the industry I work in, I got to see who ended up getting that job a couple of months later, because they sent an email to us and down the bottom it said, media advisor contact so-and-so. So naturally, I looked this person up on LinkedIn, have a little stalk. I'm like, you're who got that job. Well, let me have a look on you and your experience.
So let's see what was better than me.
Yeah. And when I tell you they were better than me in every single way, I was humbled. I had my slice of humble pie. I could not compete with this man. He had 20 years in the industry. I had maybe 4. I had worked with one newsroom organisation. He had worked for 5. He'd also been a media advisor before for all of these incredible industry peak bodies. Like this dude was a hustler. And I just had a quick 1-minute browse and I just laughed and I was like, it all makes sense. Like the organisation would have been honestly silly to pick me over him with the amount of experience he had. And I was like, wow, I really almost wish everyone had the opportunity to find out who got the job that they missed out on. I mean, not always. I think it could be a slippery slope with comparison and obsessing over it. But just in that one moment, because I was so flabbergasted and sure that I was going to get an interview, I'm so glad I found out who got it. I could sit with it and be like, this wasn't personal. Like, of course I could have done the job. I would have done great. But when they were making the decision out of both of us, it was a simple choice. So I really loved that perspective.
On the other side of that, I think it can be really tough because maybe the company, when they were putting that ad up, they were open to someone exactly like you. And maybe that's what they thought they were going to get in terms of applications as well, which is why you might find that the ad doesn't ask you for extra experience. It's not requesting that you have 5 years. It's not asking for all those extra things. But then that person turned up on their application list and they went, well, we didn't ask for these things, but oh my God, wouldn't that be good? Imagine the level that this person could operate at. And if that candidate that you're talking about, if he applied early and they see that application and they chat to the person and maybe they even book in an interview and then they get more applications in, you want to have other interviews other than him. But the bar is now way beyond the level that you were applying at. So now when you get looked at, they're thinking about you not in context of just the job description. They're thinking about your application compared to the people that they've already identified that have applied. And now the bar has moved and it's not the same bar that it started out with.
Yeah.
I think that will really make some stuff click for people, because imagine you were on the other side and you were hiring, you were like, yeah, I'm perfectly happy to accept someone on a bit of a career change. And then you get someone who is way more experienced than you expected, also still really motivated to take the job. It suits them location, pay-wise. You haven't got any other red flags or issues. And there's maybe another 2 people as well that are high in that area. You're going, happy days. I didn't write the ad for this, but why wouldn't you?
So yeah, I'm aware that it could be a slippery slope and I'm not necessarily encouraging the spiral of stalking every single person who might have got the job. But for me, it was eye-opening to be like, okay, it's not always as it seems.
I think that goes the other way as well. I think if you want to make that into a positive point of view, you also don't know that there's not heaps of people like that, and actually the applications have been really low quality and yours is a standout amongst all of them.
Definitely.
You don't know that either. It's always really difficult to tell, and that's one of the challenges with applying for jobs and in job search is you don't really know. You don't have that context. Okay. Our third thing listeners need to know, so far we haven't overlapped, which is good. I think listeners need to know that your boring examples of I do that every day are way more impressive than you think they are.
Yes.
Way more impressive. I know we've talked about this in other episodes before, but I see it over and over again in coaching sessions, in Interview Academy, comments and messages, and the work that people are producing in there because it's in their workbooks and occasionally I'm able to go in and check something for them. Your boring everyday examples where you think, yeah, but that's not special. I've done that hundreds of times. They are sometimes the exact best bits that are going to get the interview panel going, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, great. Awesome.
Yes. They're mundane to us because we do them every day. They feel so insignificant, but to someone who doesn't know what you do, especially if you're doing a little bit of a pivot into a new area or industry, you can't assume that everyone knows exactly what your role is.
Hey, Interview Boss listeners, if the podcast just isn't doing it for you and you need way more help to prep for your next interview, we have the perfect thing for you. Interview Academy. Em, tell us all about it.
This is huge. This is the love child of Sarah after doing hundreds of one-on-one coaching sessions, finding out what people struggle with the most, common mistakes. Sarah has created the ultimate course that you can do in your own time, self-paced, heaps of modules, videos, interactive quizzes, a workbook that will become your Bible by the end that you can take with you into your interview, because if you're a long-time listener, you know that we endorse taking notes into your interview. It's a game changer.
Check out more about it at interviewboss.com.au/interview academy. I think if it's helpful to think about this in a totally different industry, what just came to mind was imagine you're hiring a tradie, and this tradie, he or she, specializes in building decks. So like to add on a deck to your backyard of your house. And they do that all the time. That's most of their work is what they do, building decks. Does that make you think that you're more likely to hire them to build your deck or less because, oh, they do it all the time? Don't you want to specifically hear about the thing that they do all the time? Isn't that what you're most interested in?
I want them to specialize in decks, not just be a general handy person who has done a deck once or twice.
And imagine they came in and you had wanted to chat to them or see some of their work because they were a deck person and you'd seen all these examples of their work. But then when you spoke to them over the phone, they kept giving you examples of the really niche stuff that they'd done. You'd be like, cool, but like, tell me about the decks.
That's true.
And like, oh, one time I had to restore this heritage barn. And you're like, okay, that's really cool. But like, I don't care. I want to hear about the deck.
Interesting example, but it's a good analogy. It helps you understand.
It helps people get into that mindset of being the hirer, I think.
Yes. My fourth thing that I want our listeners to know, I feel like this is the one you just did, the one I'm about to give. I feel like they're cousins. They're close. Okay, so my thing is that context is everything after sitting in on an interview. So I recently got to sit in on my first interview and
oh my God.
What?
You've told me about this, but I just love this for you. I just love like for you to be able to share with our listeners, even with being on this podcast, having been interviewed before and always talking about this stuff, how much does it all suddenly make so much more sense when you're on the other side?
It does. If anyone is in a position in their workplace to be able to sit in on an interview, do it. Like it was fascinating. I recently sat in on an interview at my work and I had helped look through the resumes, so I kind of knew a little bit about each person before they came in. And I had saw on this girl's resume that she participated in a local government kind of community pilot program. She was selected by her university lecturer to help create a podcast series on it. So she was interviewing people that were involved in this pilot program and helping putting it together. Now, this particular pilot program I had reported on in the news, so I knew a lot about it. When I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, she obviously knows a lot about the community and current newsworthy topics, I suppose. I had extra context.
You saw that and you went, okay, I know that means this. I know that means working with these people. Like there's stuff that you already know about what that meant before she's even started talking.
Yes. And I was already pre-impressed because I was like, oh, that's recent. We've covered that here. She would know all of these types of people and things. Whereas the two managers that were actually leading the interview wouldn't have a clue about this pilot. And so she started describing, one of her answers was about this project, but she really just skimmed over any kind of context. She said the name of the pilot program, assuming that it was kind of common knowledge. And I'm like nodding furiously and not wanting to interject too much. But I also wanted to speak, but I had to bite my tongue. So she ended up just saying something to the effect of like, yeah, so insert name, pilot program. I kind of interviewed this person about why they wanted to be involved. So yeah, I had to prepare questions and interview them. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Something to the effect of that. And I could tell that my colleagues were a bit confused, a bit unsure.
They're like, why is she interviewing people on a podcast with this program? It kind of doesn't make sense. Like, what's this got to do with anything?
Yeah. And I knew, like, I wanted to interject and challenge her and draw things out because she gave glimmers of the fact that she was selected, but she didn't say by who. Like, you know, that local government organisation would have came to her university lecturer and said, hey, we need someone to help us do this podcast. Have you got anyone you'd want to put forward?
And so out of her whole course, the lecturer picked her, which is a big deal. And she didn't mention that. And so then the panel just have no idea. Whereas you know how that works. You know that the university selected one person. You've recently been at university in this kind of course. Like you've got all this extra information that she hasn't spelled out.
I also know that this particular program, pilot program, is the first of its kind in the country and it's in our backyard. So again, the scale of it just wasn't communicated right. And it was so hard. And then catching up with my colleagues after, I could tell they felt a little underwhelmed or like they didn't really get the full picture. And I felt really robbed on their behalf because I was like, oh, I know that what they did was epic, but they just didn't quite give enough context. And all it would have taken was maybe a couple more minutes of setting up the scene of saying, so in my current university course, we have our lecturer. He has contacts in all high places and often he'll choose people within the cohort to work on things and then onto the project now. This is what it is. This is who is involved. Here's what I did.
He was choosing someone to interview really high profile people, knowing that this podcast would likely, be listened to around the country and by government stakeholders. Like give the context of like what he might have been thinking about in terms of who to pick. And then I was the one that he picked for that project. Suddenly you're going, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Even just the fact that you were picked before you've even talked about what you did.
Yeah. So it was just fascinating to be on the other side and see myself in her and go, how many times have I probably had an example where I didn't set up enough context or give enough background, or I assumed that they know what I'm talking about because we're in the same industry or something like that. And they've probably left being like, oh, a bit underwhelmed there, but really I didn't help them understand enough.
Yeah. And I think when you're the lead interviewer or when you have a bit more responsibility, obviously in this case, you were in a position where you couldn't just suddenly take over the interview and start asking her follow-up questions.
Yeah.
But when you are the interviewer, you can do that kind of thing and you can go, okay, I feel like there might be more to this story. Tell me about how your lecturer chose. Like, were there a few people chosen? Like, how does that work? And then you could get the context. The way that I often do this in interviews that I'm able to run or be involved in is that I've come up with a bit of a hunch on hearing it, going, I feel like there's more to this. I think this is impressive, but let me check. And I ask them some follow-up questions to get them to expand, kind of really drawing it out of them bit by bit, getting to what the answer should have been up front. But even if I do that, it's still not quite as impressive as if they delivered the full package up front. Then I could have been expanding on taking it to the next level, extra details, versus my follow-up questions have to just get the full story. So even if you have a really great supportive interviewer who's willing to kind of help you get there, you're still kind of missing out if you don't start with a really strong answer to begin with. I love that you have this context now. This is a lot of what I talk about with people in coaching sessions and in Interview Academy is making sure that you're doing yourself justice. I think that's the biggest tragedy in all the topics of this podcast, in the entire job search, is that something is impressive, but the story isn't, and nobody then knows. I think that's devastating. The gap between those two things is what I am setting out. Like, that's my life's mission, to close that gap, basically.
Yes, that's me. You're up next.
Our fifth thing that our listeners need to hear: you shouldn't sound like a different person when you're in an interview. If your colleague that you work with every single day was to overhear you in the next room and you're being interviewed, they shouldn't be like, wait, what? She doesn't sound like that normally. You shouldn't sound like a different person at all. You should sound like how you speak generally at work.
I love this. And hearing you say this makes me realize I'm good at this. I do this. I'm me. I make jokes in interviews. I'm the same. But I can imagine there'd be a lot of people out there that feel like they need to go in and cosplay being a newsreader and extremely serious and
they cosplay
speak
like
in
a person being interviewed.
In thesaurus words.
Yeah. And we've talked a bit about this in terms of, interview mode. But I think it's not even necessarily an interview mode thing. It's like, it's a whole personality thing where like people just have this shift when you go, okay, it's an interview question, and they start, whatever it is, everyone has slightly different tendencies with it, but they have this alternative persona. It's like they switch codes. It's like they cosplay. It's like they think, oh, interview version. Okay, that must be a completely different thing. It shouldn't really be that different than how you would tell the story to your boss. Like, it's not super informal language. Sure, it's not like how you're hanging out with your friends on the weekend. Like, you may not be dropping F-bombs and those sorts of things, but it's just the same level of professional that you would just talk in a meeting, or if you caught up with your boss, which is a lot less serious than people think.
Permission to set yourself free from the shackles of pretending to be a really smart, serious, uptight person.
Yeah, you're not in a courtroom. I don't even know what kind of places you would have to pretend to be a different person. I don't even know. Maybe in a courtroom, I guess, or like, I don't know, if you're reading a speech or something. I don't even know, but interviews aren't one of them.
All right, my next one may be controversial, but hear me out. It is that there's no need to follow up about an interview. People are obsessed with, it's been 5 days, they said I'd hear back in 3 days. It's been 2 weeks. It's been 3 weeks. And like, I get it, especially if they've set you up with expectations and then it hasn't gone to plan. But can I just say, I've never followed up on the outcome of an interview and nothing bad's ever happened.
Yeah, you always end up finding out.
I've either found out that I don't have the job or I've gotten the job. Those are the two outcomes.
Or there is a third outcome, which is that you never hear back.
Never hearing back, though, is also like, if it's been 6 weeks, okay, you haven't got the job, move on.
And I think people are really interested with the never hearing back. They want to know, did I not get the job, or did the job not go ahead, or blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. The thing is that those are all the same thing. That might need to sink in for a second. If they hired someone else, they went ahead, everything went ahead as planned, but it wasn't you. To you, that is the same thing as the job didn't go ahead. Either way, you are not being hired now.
I am not starting in this new role.
That's right. I'm not starting right now.
One feels softer on the ego though, because one feels like, well, the company pulled it, so I didn't even get a chance.
And it wasn't that I missed out.
And just to be clear, disclaimer, have to do these. Obviously, I'm not saying that you can't follow up. We have episodes about how to follow up, what you can say. Obviously, you're within your right to do so, of course. But I'm just saying, personally, in the spirit of this lighthearted episode of like, I think you need to hear this, that is energy that could just be redirected elsewhere.
Yes. Yes.
They're going to take how long they're going to take, however long they're going to take. You following up has actually no correlation to whether they'll speed it up or not. It is what it is. And It's the unknown, and it's embracing it is hard because so much of following up is about regaining control and feeling like, right, well, I've done something, I've channeled that energy, I'm hopefully going to give them a push, I'll hear back. But I don't want to generalize, but like, I think people are extremely obsessed with following up. I think that most people aren't just like, oh, I might just check in. It's all they're thinking about. They've followed up 3 times already. They're debating whether they should follow up a 4th. And I just think resisting the urge to follow up at all will set you free. You'll find out. You will find out.
I think so too. And if you don't find out, that is also finding out. Set a date at which, okay, if I haven't heard anything by this date, I'm just crossing it off my list and assuming that I'm not going to hear anything else. And then maybe you do get a random reach out way after that. Great. Then that just gets to be a good thing rather than finally an answer to the thing that you've been stressing about. I also think on that line, if you think about, okay, this company has decided that they need to hire someone. They've gone out, put an ad out that you've applied to, you've interviewed for it. And if you're thinking that you following up might get them to move quicker,
you're wrong.
What you're kind of saying is that you on the outside are going to be the thing that makes this company hire a new person. And you're just not, right? Like that has to come from the company themselves. It has to come from the manager really wanting someone on board, or like the company needing that role filled, or someone really wanting to get that thing done or get that project moving. Like the push shouldn't come from the outside. That's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, I just think you get your answer one way or another. And I just think it's taking up so much mental load of people. I think it's some people's Roman Empire. They're waking up thinking about it. On their work break, they're thinking about it. They go home and tell their partner. The days of the week, no longer is it like, oh, it's Monday that defines. It's another day I haven't heard back. Still haven't heard back. This is another day. It becomes their sense of timeline.
How do you not care about it then? Obviously, we talked about that one idea of picking a day and saying, okay, well, I'm just going to wait for them.
Well, I've personally done this and I've just told myself, well, I'll know. They'll get back to me. Still haven't heard. No, they'll get back to me. I'll find out.
I think directing your energy to something else can be helpful as well. Like somewhere where it is productive, and it doesn't even have to be job search related. It could just be completely something else. Like go get a completely unrelated distraction. It's hard. It is really hard, but I completely agree with that point that I think some listeners need to hear it, is that your energy could be better conserved.
Yeah.
Okay. How amazing. We didn't double up really at all. We had one example that were cousins, but that was about it. Do you have a bonus? Did you have anything else extra that we didn't get to cover?
No, I'm happy with that. And if you got a little triggered, if we hit a little sore spot in the list, it's all fun and love and games. You know, we're on your team. This is just a friendly little call out episode for those that might need to be brought back down, anchored a little bit.
Yeah, let us know if it helped. Thanks for listening to Interview Boss. If you want to request an episode on your specific conundrum or industry, send us the details. Email us or slide into our Instagram DMs. But if you DM us on Instagram and you're not following us, Emma won't be happy and she will judge you.
I really will.
We believe in paying it forward, so if we've helped you, spread the word. You know the drill. Follow, review, find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. It all really helps. Or go the old school way and tell someone else about the show. Can you believe we started Interview Boss in 2021?
Not really. It's insane. That's a lot of episodes and a lot of hours of talking.
Oh my gosh, it is. And if you're scrolling through all of our episodes, you might scroll straight past something that you really, really needed.
Yes, we're always getting messages from people asking us to do an episode on something, and I'm like, we already have.
So we've put together playlists to help you find the episodes that are exactly what you need, suited to your situation.
They're all categorized. If you're applying for jobs, we have episodes about resumes, cover letters, job ads. If you've been offered your dream job, we have episodes on resigning, exit interviews, and how to impress at your new company.
And we even have a very special playlist that's very popular for if you have an interview coming up immediately and you need just our most recommended hard-hitting episodes between now and then.
For all our last-minute listeners. It's all there for you. You can browse by category and check out all the playlists at interviewboss.com.au/podcast.